All right, we're talking with Army veteran Bruce Evans, who's the VP of Franchise Development for Capriotti's in Wing Zone. Bruce, I love the background there. If you're watching this on the YouTube channel, you can see Bruce's background there. He's perfectly branded with the Capriotti's restaurant in the background. It's awesome. And it's not a fake. He's actually sitting in a Capriotti's restaurant in Kansas City, which is ironic because we just moved from Kansas City and now we're down in Florida. And I could actually be there in the Capriotti's with you if this had been a month ago before we moved down there. So how ironic you're in Kansas City, where my wife and I are essentially from and lived most of our non-military life there in Kansas City. But anyways, Bruce, really looking forward to hearing about the franchise business with Capriotti's and Wing Zone. Before we do that, take us back. Tell us what you did in the Army.
Hey, Joe, first of all, thanks for having me today. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. And look, my journey to the Army, I think was not like a lot of people that are, in the Army today. The summer between my junior and senior year of high school, I get the ominous phone call from a recruiter, and I'm thinking to myself, this guy's got a pretty good game. This sounds like a pretty good opportunity. Let me talk to him. I just turned 50 this year. So I saw stripes a few too many times and thought that's what the Army was going to be like. So, look, I talked to a recruiter and it sounded good. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do after high school. College was just, I was thinking about it, but not really seriously. And I ended up, joining through that delayed entry program. And then, about 10 days after I graduated from high school, I was on a flight to Fort Jackson, South Carolina for basic training. And that was quite a shock to the system, going from my sheltered high school experience to being thrown right in the middle of basic training.
Absolutely. I mean, one of my best friends from high school, within a week or 10 days of graduating high school, he was off to the Army and ended up going to Germany most of his 4 years.
Yeah.
I didn't see much of him, but best thing he ever did.
Yeah, same here. I mean, looking back on it now, I see that it's really directed, so many aspects of my life and really, helped me, to be successful. And with success, there also comes failure a lot of times. And I think one of the key things that I look back on today that I learned from the Army was and it's in those initial days too of being in the Army, going through basic training. I was, how you're running PT, 4:00 in the morning, I don't know what they do now. It's probably a lot lighter than that, but it was pretty heavy duty back in the day.
No,
and I stepped off in a pothole and had a pretty bad sprain in my ankle. And I'm sitting around answering the phones and not doing things during basic. And I start thinking, they're going to make me redo this thing. I was about halfway through basic. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Do I want to do this again? And did I make the right decision? And I finally got up the nerve to go meet with our head drill sergeant. I'll never forget Drill Sergeant Johnson going into his office and, standing in front of him. And I said, I don't think this is for me. I don't think I can do this anymore. And he looked at me and said, Evans, he said, if you quit now, you're going to be quitting for the rest of your life. This is just going to make things easier. Don't do it. And I thought for a second and I said, you're right. I mean, I was a naive kid, but
right.
Looking back on it now, that makes the difference. I think about that so many times in my life. When things get difficult or things get hard, I always turn back on that and don't quit or don't give up because of that conversation. And I think that's what, sometimes we think about our experiences in the military and we don't always find that one thing that really shapes who we are. But I think that this, for me, really shaped everything about me. And I think if we all think hard enough, we'll find those areas, of our experience in the military, because that experience is unlike, what a lot of people out there have ever experienced. Nobody knows what we went through unless they've been through it themselves. So it's definitely integral to who I am, was my experience in the Army.
Absolutely. So, after your time in the Army, you're transitioning out, you're a little older, matured quite a bit. Talk about what your transition was like.
Well, look, I was 22 years old.
Yeah.
I did 4 years, and my last duty station was at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, and I, made up my mind that last 6 months I was kind of in this: am I going to stay in or am I going to get out? And I applied to a few universities in the San Antonio area. I decided I was going to stay there, and said, well, if I get into school, then I'm just going to stay here and go to college. And so I got accepted into University of Texas in San Antonio, and ended up staying there for a year, but was still really unsure about really what I wanted to do with my life. But I ended up, after a year in San Antonio going to college, I ended up moving back home, which was Houston, and went to U of H for a little while. And my sister, actually the impetus for me moving back to Houston was my sister called me and says, hey, I've got this job waiting tables, Bruce, you should come over here and work with us. And so I got a job at Papacito's restaurant, and was waiting tables, and I was such a bad waiter, they made me a manager. And I'm going to school, I'm training as a manager, and next thing I know, my GM was being transferred up to Dallas and asked me to go with him. And so I dropped out of college in Houston, moved up to Dallas, got into school at University of North Texas, and that's where I ended up getting my degree, but worked the whole time. So worked as a kitchen manager with the Papacitos concept, and learned a lot about the restaurant business, really found my footing in the restaurant business. But look, I was a history major in college, so I was actually thinking about I'm going to be a professor or a history teacher or something along those lines. And then an opportunity came up as I was not long after I graduated from college. I started looking around to see what other opportunities there might be now that I have a college degree. And an opportunity came up with Wingstop restaurants, and they just happened to be looking for somebody that knew nothing about franchising, but understood the operational side of a restaurant. And, that really turned into another life-changing experience for me, taking my career off into a direction that I'd never even anticipated. So while, I got a degree in history, I've never used that degree for anything, but it's definitely helped me along the way. I think that the word I like to use is perseverance. That perseverance that you gain through your time in the military, really helps you fight through those ups and downs that come along the way, and those decisions that you have to make as you're transitioning from one phase of life to another. And sometimes they're unexpected transitions, but it definitely helps you fight through the difficulties that come your way. But the time spent with Wingstop restaurants was phenomenal. I spent almost 10 years there, and now I'm with Capriotti's restaurants, which is based out of Las Vegas. My family and I, packed up from the Dallas-Fort Worth area and moved out to Vegas for 5 years, and the company was nice enough to let us move back to Texas. And so I spent a lot of time on the road pre-COVID, but today I do a lot of work from home and on Zoom calls just like this. So
awesome. All right, we're definitely going to start digging into Capriotti's and Wingstop as far as the franchise industry and stuff like that goes. But we're going to take a break, so we'll be right back.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, back talking with Army veteran Bruce Evans, VP of Franchise Development for Capriotti's in Wing Zone. So, Bruce, I really appreciate that you came from inside the restaurant industry. You were all into it for many years before you ever got into the franchising concept of things. So I really want to talk to us a little bit about what you can as far as Capriotti's and Wing Zone and what it's like to own a franchise. What do you got to do to get into franchising? Because I thoroughly believe, and it really, you hear a lot of bad stories about franchises. Usually it's because some of the leadership in the franchise company themselves, became untrustworthy and disloyal to their franchisees and those kinds of things. I know a lot of veterans and friends of mine that have had franchises over the years, and some of them went great and some of them not so great. So I want to hear from you. What comes to mind when if you're looking at a veteran getting out of the military, or maybe they've been out for a year or two and they don't want to do the JOB corporate America thing, but they don't really have an idea for, inventing the next Apple or Microsoft. So maybe franchising is in between there somewhere. So what kind of advice comes to mind?
Well, look, I think first of all, there's a lot of correlations that have been drawn between the military and franchising. Franchising is all about, systemic operations. And when somebody can follow a system, a successful system, that's going to lead to success. And veterans and military folks are used to that. They're used to systems and processes and ways to do things. And so, it makes for a really nice marriage oftentimes. But I think to your point, the interesting thing about franchising is that there are a myriad of franchises out there. And I think what someone has to do, first of all, is find what they love and what they enjoy and what they can be passionate about and believe in. And, sometimes that's a deep dive, soul searching kind of, what do I want to do for the rest of my life? And, once they figure out that, maybe it's what industry or what brand they want to be in, there's a franchise out there for them. And then it's about finding the right franchise to go with. And to your point, understanding who the leadership is, understanding what their goals and objectives are, reviewing documents. There's a thing called a franchise disclosure document that, has a wealth of information in there, lots of nuts and bolts, and not any fun to read, but it's going to tell you about success or failures. The other thing is to talk to franchisees that are running that business, that are in that business. And you want to hear the good, the bad, the ugly, and then you want to make a decision about, is this right for me personally, professionally? Is it going to be right for me and my family? Those are the kinds of things you want to consider, because this is like a marriage, right? And so just like a marriage, if it doesn't work out, it can go very badly, and the breakup can be very ugly. So you want to do your research, number one, and really understand what you're getting into. The other thing I think sometimes people fail to look at is understanding, how do I make money in this business? How am I going to be profitable? Am I just buying a job? Am I buying a $40,000 a year job? Or is there a way for me to truly build wealth in this business? And is there a track record and a history of success? And so, look, when folks come and look at, Capriotti's or Wing Zone, and they're talking to us about it, a lot of times, first of all, people fell in love with the food before they even thought about, being in a business like this. So, anybody out there listening to us today, they could be, hey, I ate at such and such restaurant, I love it. Is that a franchise? Google it up, see what's going on. But, for us, I mean, really what we drive is, and what we're looking for in, we call them franchise partners, is we really look for value alignment. We look for people that, have the same set of beliefs and ideas and values that we do as a company. And, we want people that are going to emulate those and grow the brand and really be successful in it. That's ultimately what we want. And I think when you find brands that, fit into that niche, that have not just the concern for the company's success, but the individual franchisee's success, that's a company that you want to be part of. And that's what you want to get involved in. Now, people think about, well, how am I going to pay for something like this? Or, where am I going to get money from to do this? And, look, there's a lot of ways to do that. There's some great lending opportunities out there for, veterans through the SBA. SBA has tons of programs. And I think too, being, in the restaurant industry, I also understand that, people looking at a restaurant business, it's not easy. Restaurant business isn't easy, and it's hard work. But the beauty of what we've done at Capriotti's and Wing Zone is, and if you're looking for a franchise, you want to find something similar for you, is where we've created systems and processes for people that have never done anything like this before. Not only have they not been in the restaurant business, but they've not been in business for themselves. So our
Mhm.
systems and processes are created to really hold people's hands, from real estate selection through construction, through training and operations and long-term support. So really building that foundation for long-term success and growth. And, folks with military backgrounds, it is very easy for them to really be successful in the franchise business
Is that really
because that
obvious to
background.
you as a franchiser?
It's very obvious to me. And, the IFA has got this, which is the International Franchise Association, which is, a great industry group.
Mhm.
And they have a program called Vet Fran, that's been around for, probably 15, 20 years now. And, we're a member of Vet Fran. And I think it all came out of this recognition that, veterans make for good franchisees, just generally. And so yeah, it's pretty obvious to me. Yeah, we've got some guys that are veterans and girls that are veterans in our system, and they're phenomenal franchise operators. I mean, they're great at what they do.
We talk a little bit about Capriotti's food and even Wing Zone if you want.
Mm, for sure. I mean, look, when if you're considering getting into the restaurant business, you better love the food, right?
Right.
So let me tell you something. This Capriotti's will absolutely blow your mind. We we've been around for 42 plus years. We were founded by a brother and sister in Wilmington, Delaware in 1976, and we actually roast whole turkeys in house every day. We're the largest restaurant buyer of butterball turkeys in the country. We have Wagyu beef on our menu, so we're one of the only fast casual restaurant companies that has Wagyu beef. We've partnered with Snake River Farms out of Idaho. We hand roll meatballs. We do cheesesteaks, chicken cheesesteaks. We've got Italian subs. So it's very much like an East Coast sub shop, but super high quality food and just these craveable flavors that you just can't get anywhere else. So our food is unbelievable. We have got phenomenal average unit volumes. So the sales of these restaurants, average about 835,000 a year, which is pretty significant for a sandwich concept.
Nice.
Our sales to investment ratio runs at about 1.6 times. So that's pretty significant as well in the sandwich segment. And so we've got franchise partners that following that system, doing the things they're supposed to do, are really just killing it in this business. And I think as we've grown across the country, so we've got a core of operations in the Mid-Atlantic, and the corporate office has been in Las Vegas for the last 25 years. And so we've got a core out in Las Vegas, but we've got 150 restaurants today in 27 states, and we've got about another 300 under development. And we are seeing an enormous amount of just attraction to the Capriotti's brand because of the high quality food. So as we're developing in new markets around the country, we're doing unbelievably well. And we're opening places like, Kansas City, Des Moines, Iowa, Columbus, Ohio, and just Dallas, Texas, San Antonio. It's amazing, man. I've been with Capriotti's. It'll be 9 years in November. So we've really seen this brand grow incredibly,
Yeah.
and great franchise partners. And then back in January, we acquired the Wing Zone brand. Wing Zone has been around for 30 years. It's an amazing wing concept. and we partnered with a company called Live It. And Live It is an international design and consulting firm, and we've completely overhauled the entire Wing Zone brand. Now, the flavors at Wing Zone are phenomenal, but I will tell you that, and the new look and feel of Wing Zone is just going to blow everybody's mind. But the big difference maker, what we found as, you know, being a difference maker in the wing category today, is speed of service. And so what we've done is we've perfected a cook time or a ticket time rather, of 3 minutes.
Really?
So we can execute an order of wings in 3 minutes and get it out the door. So that's going to be a big difference maker, especially in the world of delivery and pickup today. It's going to be a game changer in the wing segment.
So you just brought up metrics, ticket time. Can you, I love how when a company like this really pays attention to metrics like this, because a lot of people don't view a restaurant or a wing, store where you go buy wings as metrics are really important. What other metrics can you share with us that are interesting? Like ticket time, 3 minutes, boom. That's a really cool metric, and a lot of people probably don't pay attention to that.
Yeah,
really
yeah.
important.
Yeah. That's a great question. And there's quite a few metrics that we look at, and the way we operate internally is, so once a week, our teams, which is Fran Dev, which is sales, real estate, construction, and then the operations teams. So, company ops, franchise ops, training, we all get together and we look at a number of key metrics. And so for us, we look at things like same store sales, so year over year performance. We look at operational metrics so we utilize a company called Service Management Group, or SMG, that does all of our customer surveys. And so we look at things like overall satisfaction. We look at things like speed of service, taste of food, and we really see those as key drivers of sales. So your overall satisfaction is going down and your sales are going with it. And so, our teams really work hard to dial into those metrics and figure out, where's the gap and how do we help the franchise partner, close that gap and improve on those metrics to get their sales back up. So, there's one of the things you can do is you can sort of have death by data in the restaurant industry. Because there is so much data that you can pull out and glean. And I think having a partner that can really help you, filter into that data and really understand what are the key indicators and the metrics that are going to be most effective or have the most effect on my operation, or what I need to look at. And then the other thing too is really how do I help an hourly employee understand those metrics and why certain things are important and how they affect their paycheck every week. So, there's so many things that you can glean to help you become profitable in a business like this. In the restaurant industry, there's really, all other things being equal, there's really two areas of focus long term that you have in terms of profitability. And it's really a focus on your cost of goods sold, so your inventory, and then your labor costs. I mean, those are going to be the areas that, for a non-restaurant person, really learning those intricacies of the restaurant business are going to be key for you. And obviously, we've got programs that help you do that and help you wrap your head around those things very quickly. But there's a lot of metrics that are going to help you be successful in a business like this, and things you probably, for a non-restaurant person, you're not even thinking about on the front end, because it is quite a bit different than other businesses that are out there.
Yeah. Have you guys had to deal with, the lack of, how you want to phrase it, finding people to work?
Yeah. That's
thing.
Boy, that's all over the country. I mean,
yeah, everywhere.
It's something that we deal with all the time. But look, I think one of the things that we focus on, in that value alignment and the culture that we create at Capriotti's and the training, it's all about the people, right? And really working hard to take care of your people. And so, we have some really great programs for employee retention, but that's not to say it hasn't been tough. I mean, that's just the reality of where we are. But I will, anecdotally, one of the things that we have seen is that, in market areas where, the additional workers unemployment insurance has gone
Right.
away. There has been a surge in people looking for jobs. So we certainly saw that when we opened in Denver,
Uh-huh.
and we're seeing that coming up on Colorado Springs as they're hiring people, and it's becoming less of an issue, in the wider parts of the country. But certainly we still deal with some of that difficulty in places like California or Oregon, and New York. But in other places we're seeing some of that loosen up a little bit.
So Bruce, if a veteran's listening out there and is interested in exploring a franchise opportunity with Capriotti's or Wing Zone, how do they find
Man,
you?
or if they just want to talk about transitioning,
Yeah,
whatever they want to know, they can pick up the phone and call me. My
awesome.
cell phone number is 702-374-4746, or you can email me at bruce.evans@capriottis.com.
Awesome.
Whatever you want to talk about, man, you can reach out to me.
Appreciate that. And
Yep.
if you are giving a transitioning veteran, military spouse, some advice on exploring
Yeah.
possibly going into Capriotti's franchise, what kind of advice would you have for them?
Man, I would say just talk to me. Just talk. Let's talk about it. We're going to shoot you straight. But I think, in general, I think it's so important to find something you really like. You really like the food. Are you going to go out and try the food? Are you going to taste it? Are you going to investigate it? Do all of those things to make sure that, you really love and you can be passionate about what you're doing every day. I think that's key advice. But, I wouldn't worry about too many other things. I would, pick up the phone, call me. Don't think, oh, I couldn't get financing for this, or, oh, where am I going to get money to do this? There's a solutions for everything. So don't let little things hold you back.
That's awesome. Great advice.
Yep.
Well, hey, Bruce, great interview.
Joe,
Great, phenomenal information that you shared with us. I really appreciate it. And especially sharing your
absolutely.
personal story. And I've never been to Capriotti's before, but the next time next time I travel, I know there's not one right here where I'm living at, but if there's next time I see one, I'll be there.
You got to be on the lookout for it, Joe. Thanks for the opportunity today, man. I really appreciate it.
You bet. All
All
right.
right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yep. All right. These two veterans are Oscar Mike.